Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel. Let me just show you the front cover. Binyan Mikdash Mivtza Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel. And in the introduction, so it says it right here in the introduction, in case anyone's not sure about if it's just hinted to in the Kuntres. The Kuntres' introduction is, why are we giving out this Kuntres? B'kesher hamikdosh v'harchavas beis hakneses beis medrash hamerkazi de Lubavitch Yeshivos. By the way, sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Levi Jacobson, and our host tonight is Rabbi Shmuley Litvin, who was brave and came up with the idea, let's just start on Zoom. Let's start learning. Why are we looking to expand 770? And Baruch Hashem, we launched a website, expand770.com. So if anyone wants to look at this, at the Kuntres while we learn it on their own device without looking at the shared screen, you can go to expand770.com right now. And the first link on the homepage is Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel. Okay, back to the introduction. Introduction says that this is in connection to the making bigger and expanding the shul and Beis Medrash, the central one of Lubavitch, Shebibovel 770. So we are publishing this Kuntres. These were sichos that Rebbe spoke in different times, and those sichos are Shabbos Parshas Noach, Tavshin Mem Zayin, Shabbos Parshas Pinchas, and Koyach Sivan Tavshin Nun Aleph, and other sichos as well. And this came out Chav Chesh and Tavshin Nun Beis, Shnas Tzadik of the Rebbe. Okay. So the pasuk that this Kuntres starts off with is V'ayelehem lemikdash ma'adse Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel. On this pasuk, V'ayelehem lemikdash ma'at ba'aratzis asher bo'u sham. So this is a pasuk in Yecheskel, and Hashem is telling Yecheskel that he shouldn't worry about the fact that the Beis Hamikdosh is destroyed and that there's going to be galus, because Hashem will always be with the Yidden even after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdosh. Hashem will be by the Yidden in the Mikdash Ma'at, and this is wherever they go. Ba'aratzis asher bo'u sham, and wherever the Yidden go, Hashem will always be with them. Shagam b'chutz la'aretz ba'aratzis asher bo'u sham. B'malkeim u'bizman hagalus yeshnoi mikdash ma'at me'ein v'dugmas hamikdash hagadol asher b'Yerushalayim. The pasuk is saying that even when we're not in Eretz Yisrael, when we're in Galus, there's a mikdash ma'at which is similar to the big mikdash, the Beis HaMikdash that's in Yerushalayim. And the Mitzudas David on this pasuk says, Tanyon lebeis makdasha. Sorry, actually, I'm making a mistake. There's a mistake in the Kuntres. The footnote number 2 is repeated. It's supposed to be footnote number 2 and then footnote number 3. So the Mitzudas David says that it's similar to the Mikdash Hagadol that's in Yerushalayim. And then footnote number 3, so if we look down at the footnotes, is, let me make this smaller actually, that way we can see the footnotes while we read it. Okay, I hope it's not too small for people to read. So in Targum Yonason and in the Pirush Rashi, they say it's called Tanyon Lebeis Makdasha. The Mikdash Ma'at will be a second, like an alternative, a substitute to the Beis Hamikdash. Now, on this pasuk, the Gemara speaks about this pasuk in Megillah, Daf Chavtes Amud Aleph. The Gemara speaks and says, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Elu bate knisiyei subate midrashe Shebibovel. Rabbi Yitzchak says, what does this mean? The Mikdash Ma'at, the substitute of the Beis HaMikdash. This is talking about the shuls and Bate Midrashis in Bavel. Rabbi Elazar Amar Zeh Beis Rabeinu Shebibovel. Rabbi Elazar says this Mikdash Ma'at, the alternative, the substitute of the Beis HaMikdash, is talking about Beis Rabeinu Shebibovel. Now, there's also another lashon that says Beis Rav Shebibovel. He was the Rabeinu in Bavel. Okay. Now, in footnote 4 by Megillah Chavtes Amud Aleph, He says there, Behemshech hasugya, and the continuation of the discussion over there, the Gemara also brings the pasuk that says Hashem ma'ayin ata hayisalanu b'der b'der. The Hainu gam kish. One second, there's a chat here. Just want to make sure this is not for me. Okay, you can zoom into the sikha on your own screen. Okay, shkoyach.
No, he's asking you.
Oh, you want me to zoom it in a little?
No, we could when you have it zoomed out, we can zoom in personally to any part of the screen that you're showing.
Oh, okay, good. There we go. That's okay. So then I'll leave it out, and then anyone can zoom in whenever they want. Thank you, Simcha. Okay. So the pasuk says Hashem ma'ayin ata hayisalanu b'der b'der, which means that Hashem, Dahainu, he's quoting the Marsha in the Megillah, in the Gemara Megillah of Testament Aleph. Marsha says, "Dahainu gam kishe'ein beis hamikdosh kayam yiyeh ma'ayin lanu b'bati knesiyas chulu." That even when the Beis Hamikdosh is not existent, Hashem will still be for us a ma'ayin. Not sure the exact translation of ma'ayin, in our shuls. I think ma'ayin means like our tower, our maybe our house, our dwelling. Okay. Back in the Sikha, these two opinions of Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Lazar are actually, it's not an argument. Rabbi Lazar, who said that we're talking about Beis Rabeinu Shebibovel, is he trying to say that the other shuls and Batim Midrashis are not considered Mikdash Ma'at? No, he's not saying that. He also agrees that Mikdash Ma'at applies to all shuls and all Batim Midrashis that are in Bavel. V'gam l'das Rabbi Yitzchak. Is Rabbi Yitzchak saying that when he says that it's talking about all the shuls and Batim Midrashis, is he saying that it's not talking about Beis Rabeinu Shebibovel? Obviously not. He also agrees that the Mikdash Ma'at is Beis Rabeinu. So he says, V'gam l'das Rabbi Yitzchak ikar shleimus ha'inyan the Mikdash Ma'at hu beBeis Rabeinu. So it's just that we know that all of the shuls are really Mikdash Ma'at, but the Beis Rabeinu Shebibovel is the main Mikdash Ma'at. Now, the Rebbe says, Hatoya Rabeinu, hu al shem shemalamid Torah l'talmidim. Why is he called Rabeinu? Rabeinu means a teacher. Hu Beis Rabeinu habayis, sheboi malamid Rabeinu Torah l'talmidav, hu Beis Medrash. So, what does it mean? The words Beis Rabeinu, it means Beis Medrash, because Rabeinu means to teach. So, the house of study. No b'meila, Harei hugam Beis Knesses, habayis sheboi miskansim harav v'hatalmidim l'tfilah. So b'meila, because this is the house where the teacher is teaching students, so this is obviously also where they're going to daven, where they get together, because Beis Knesses also means a place of gathering. So this is, if the Rav is teaching Talmidim, this is obviously where they're going to gather. Kivan sha'alim advat filas orchlis b'bayis echad kem shechasugya havai gerisna b'bei kanishta. In the continuation of the Gemara over there, it says in the Abaya says that I only daven in the place of the place where I learn. Now, there's actually two gersois. One is that Abaya says I only daven in the place that there's learning, and one gersa is that he doesn't say only, that I daven. I think Hagai Sabach says that I only learn in the place that I daven. So you see in the Ha'aris over there, in Brachas, Daf Chesed Aleph, it says, Lo yahava matzlina ella hecha de garisna. I don't daven only where I learn. And Hagai Sabach in footnote 7, Lo yahava garisna ella bebei kanishta hecha de matzlina. Okay. Well, Maila Yiseda bebeis hakneses bebeis hamedrash shebeis Rabeinu lagabe shebebeis Rabeinu lagabe shor batiknisiyus batim midrashes. Now, another advantage that's by Beis Rabeinu over the other shuls and batim midrashes, Kidrashas Chazal, as our sages teach. My dichsiv is a pasuk that says in Tehillim, Oyev Hashem Sharei Tzion Mikol Mishkanis Yaakov. So the Gemara says, so the pasuk says Hashem loves the gates of Tzion over all the dwellings of Yaakov. What does it mean? Oyev Hashem sha'arim hamitzuyonim b'halacha. The word Sharei Tzion doesn't just mean the literal translation, which is the gates of Tzion, but it also means the gates hamitsuyanim bahalacha. The gates that are, I guess the English for hamitsuyanim bahalacha means that they are signified, they are marked by halacha, that they are like the word I guess would be maybe distinguished, like that this is the place of halacha. The gates that are distinguished for halacha, yosim mibati knisiyos mibati midrashos. So Hashem loves Sha'arei Tzion over all the other shuls and bati midrashos. And the Gemara says over there, Miyoyim shecharav beis hamikdosh ein leila hakadosh baruch hu beilamai ela arba amay shel halacha. From the day that the Beis Hamikdash has been destroyed, Hakadosh Baruch Hu does not have in his world the only thing he has is the 4 cubits of halacha. Where there's halacha in the arba amis of the halacha, that's where Hashem has a place to live. The Bisman shebeis Hamikdash kayam hayasham lishkas hagazis. We see this also by the Beis Hamikdash itself. By the Beis Hamikdash, they had the Sanhedrin was right next to the Beis Hamikdash. Shemisham yoytzes halacha psuka al pi Sanhedrin. From the Lishkas Hagazis comes out the halachas. This is where the teacher teaches the students. The Sanhedrin teaches the Jewish people how to live and what's the way. Halacha means not just law; it means the way to live, the way you're supposed to live. So, according to the Sanhedrin, that's the way everyone lives. And so, that's where the Shechina is. The Shechina is where there's halacha. Now that we don't have that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, so oisan dalad amis shel halacha. That 4 amis, that 4 cubits of halacha. Makim kavua shemimenu yoytzei seira l'anshei ha'ir, the established place from where everyone takes their directives. Everyone learns how am I supposed to behave as a yid? What am I supposed to do? That's the main place where the Eibishter is Oyhev Hashem. Hashem loves that place over all the other places. And therefore, davening is also in that place. This is the meaning, the concept of Beis Rabbeinu. And this is actually in Ha'ara 11. He continues what we said from Abaye, that when Abaye said that I only daven in the I only learn in the place that I daven. So the backstory over there is that the Abaye says that once I heard this vart, that from the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Eibusher only has the arba amish halacha. So Abaye says, so there, from now on, I only daven where I learn. Because what he's saying is, now that you're telling me that where is the Eibusher? The Eibusher is where we learn, is where we learn halacha. So if I want to daven to the Eibishter, I should daven in the place where the Eibishter is, but the place of halacha. Now, I also want to point out, obviously, that what we're talking about here, we're talking about that it's all about 770. This is what the whole Kuntres is about, and we know that 770 is the place where the Rebbe gives the directives and gave all the directives that we have till today came from the Rebbe in 770. And this is not just me and you. We're talking about every chassid, every shliach of the Rebbe, and shluchim are all over the world. Where do they learn how to live a Jewish life, how to reach every yid in the world? It all comes from 770, where the Rebbe taught us all the mivtzayim, where the Rebbe taught us all the sichos and maimarim that we know. So this is the place. 770 is the place of Beis Rabbeinu. This is where the Eibishter is mainly over all other shuls. And but the Midrashes, the Eibishter finds himself in the Makom HaSanhedrin, in the place where that gives the way of life for the whole Jewish people in the whole world. Umitzad ha'ilui hamiyuchad. The Beis HaKnesses, so Beis HaMedrash, Beis Rabbeinu, Legabi she'ar batiknisis abatim midrashes Shebibovel. Because this special quality that Beis Rabbeinu has over all the other shuls and Bati Midrashes in Bavel, Harehu Mikdash Ma'at Ha'ikri. So here's this point that he was saying that Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Elazar don't argue that really every shul is taka a Mikdash Ma'at, But then we know, based on the Gemara that says, Oyhev Hashem Sha'arei Tzion Mikol Mishkanis Yaakov, that with from all the Mishkanis Yaakov, all the Mikdashim Ma'at, every shul and Beis Medrash, which is the Mikdash Ma'at, there is the central, there's the main place, the main Mikdash Ma'at. Shenoisen HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael B'zman HaGalos Tumuras HaMikdash HaGadol Shebirushalayim. So, and this main Mikdash Ma'at is what the Eibishter gives to the Yidden as a substitute, instead of, because we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, the Eibishter tells Yechezkel, V'ei Yelahem L'Mikdash Ma'at Ba'aratzis Asher Bo'u Sham, I will give the Yidden, I will give them myself, I will still dwell within them, in the Mikdash Ma'at, in the main Mikdash Ma'at, which is the substitute of the Beis HaMikdash of Yerushalayim, the Mikdash HaGadol. Now we're holding Ois Beis.
Again, the concept of halacha is like directives in general, not necessarily. I mean, it's more the Rebbe is using it, and just the way it's presented here is more of it's all the directives, it's all the.
Yeah. And I actually missed out Ha'ara 12. He says, Al derechu bedugmas haSanhedrin, that Beis Rabbeinu is similar to the Sanhedrin, which was in Lishkas Hagazis, right next to the Beis HaMikdash, because he says, what was the Sanhedrin? The Sanhedrin, he says, he quotes the pasuk similar to Sanhedrin. We have Hashayfet Asher Yiyeh Bayamim Haheim, and in the Rambam also he says there's a Beis Din Shebedoircha, that we have a command, we have a mitzvah to listen to the Beis Din of our generation, to the shofet of our generation, that in every generation there's a shofet, the one who gives the rulings and the directives of how to live our lives. And Beis Rabeinu is the Sanhedrin of our days. Now also, like what Nassim was saying, what he pointed out also makes me realize at the end of the day, there really is no such thing as a Sanhedrin of today, because until there's a new Sanhedrin in the Beis HaMikdash, no one's allowed to uproot what the Sanhedrin taught us. What the Sanhedrin taught us stays like that forever. And so, what does it mean to even say that you have a Beis Rabbeinu, a Mikdash Ma'at in Bavel? So obviously we're talking about the place that's not necessarily writing halacha, but it's the place that teaches the Yidden how to live. The place where is the shofet, where the Rebbe, where Rabeinu, the Rebbe of the generation, is teaching the Yidden how to live and giving them the halacha. It also reminds me of there's a Sikha. I want to say that it was Chavdalad Teves, Tafshin Yud Aleph, a little before Yud Shvat Tafshin Yud Aleph, and the Rebbe accepted the Nesius. I might be mistaken because I didn't look this over recently. It stuck out by me when I learned it, and you can find it in Teres Menachem in the first halakim over there from before the Nesius, and the Rebbe says over there that he teaches about Kol Hasheina halachis b'chol yoyim muftach loy shehu ben olam haba shenemar halichais olam loy al tikrei halichais ela halachis. And the Rebbe says over there like this, that when a chassid takes the Rebbe's halachis, the halachis that the Rebbe taught us, the directives that the Rebbe taught us, and it becomes, instead of al tikrei halichais ela halachis, halichais means the way you live your life, your everyday, your halichais, your everyday customs, your practices, your everyday stuff, your habits. So he says, the Rebbe said that when a chassid takes the Rebbe's halachos and makes it his halichos, makes it into his habit, into the way he lives his everyday life, so then muftach lo yishahu ben olam haba, the chassid is promised that you become a ben olam haba, which means not just that you're yoresh olam haba. It doesn't mean that the pasuk is not telling you that you're going to get olam haba one day if you're shayna halachis. What it means is that you become already in this world, in olam haza, you become a ben olam haba, which means that you see olam chatira b'chayecha, you see already olam haba in this world. And the Rebbe explains that when a chassid takes the Rebbe's halachis and he makes it into his halichos, then the Rebbe says that you can see the Rebbe even after the Rebbe was talking about the Frierdiker Rebbe, even after Yud Shvat. You could still see the Rebbe in this world. You become a Ben Elam Haba, you see the Rebbe in this world, and the Rebbe, the way he's Aymed Meshamish. He's still, he didn't leave us alone. So I just realized to connect the two because the Rebbe speaks about the halacha that's coming from Beis Rabbeinu. Okay, so Eis Beis.
Seemingly also related to Parsha Shoftim and Nunalef too.
Right. Yeah, and Shoftim Nunalef, for the Rebbe wants us to know that there's and everyone should know that we should publicize that there's a Navi of our generation. So yes, right here in Ha'ara 12, he's talking about Hashayfet Hashayiyah B'Yamim Mahim. Now, I also just want to point out that once we connected to another Sikha, is that right before this shiur, so I was trying to do some research and some preparation, and which is actually part of why I posted it everywhere onto the news sites, because the more the more people that are involved, the more something becomes real and something you need to really put in time to. So when Rabbi Shmuley came up with the idea of doing a shiur, the idea was just a few of us should get together and learn together. And then Shmuley said, he asked me, would you teach it? And when I said yes, I wasn't even planning on preparing, because whatever, it's just a few of us. We're just gonna sit back and chill with the Kuntres. But so I wanted to force myself to take it seriously. So that's why I shared it. So Baruch Hashem, I did some research. Anyway, I looked into one of the things that I looked up is what happened on Chav Chesh and Tavshin Beis, the day that the Kuntres came out. What's interesting is that day there was actually a chalukah of Kuntresim. The Rebbe gave out Kuntresim on Chav Chesh and Tavshin Beis on the same day that this Kuntres was published. I guess there wasn't enough. I mean, it's hard to know why the Rebbe gave a different Kuntres. The Rebbe gave out a Kuntres called, it's the Maimer Vayiyu Yimei Vayiyu Chaye Sara. I forgot exactly what the Dibra Maschil is. Vayiyu Yimei Chaye Sara, I think might be the Dibra Maschil. But the Rebbe gave this Kuntres. I have a Kuntres like that. I went by as a young child, and I got that Kuntres. So Baruch Hashem. And so I looked into the Kuntres right away. I wanted to see what the Kuntres says. I looked it over very quickly, but what I saw is at the end of the Kuntres, the Rebbe ends off by saying that he mentions that we should all merit to have harchava and harchava atzmis. So he ends off that Kuntres that he gave each one of us, Chav Chesh and Tavshin Beis, the same day that this Kuntres was published about harchava. The Pesach Davar it says that it's about the harchava of 770, and he ends off that Kuntres that he gave to everyone that it should be with harchava. So I also, Mitzvah Hashem, I'm planning on learning that mimer, of course. It should be clear also what the Rebbe gave us that day. Anyway, to go to Eis Beis. So now the Rebbe is going to back this up about the different levels that there are in Mikdash Ma'at, because the Rebbe just established that there's regular Mikdash Ma'at, and then there's the Mikdash Ma'at. So let's bring up. The Rebbe is going to bring us some backup. So the Gemara over there in the Gemara Megillah Chav Amud Aleph, the Gemara says that in every place where the Yidden are exiled, Shechina comes with them. Galu l'Mitzrayim, Shechina imahen. Galu l'Bavel, Shechina imahen. Excuse me. So the Gemara asks like this: Bebavel heicha. So you're telling me Shechina imahen, Shechina is with them, but where in Bavel is the Shechina? And so Amar Abaye says, Bebei Kanishta the Hutzal, Bebei Kanishta the Shafi Yosef ben Arda. Abaye says that the Shechina, when we say Shechina imahen in Bavel, where is it? It's in Hutzal, in a shul called Hutzal, and in a shul called Shafi Yosef in Arda. We'll look at the footnotes in a second. I think let's just get to the end of the paragraph. And he says, I don't mean to say that the Shechina is in both places, hacha and hacha, here and here. Ella zimnin hacha v'zimnin hacha. Rather, sometimes the Shechina is in this one, in this shul, and sometimes the Shechina is in the other shul. So let's first look at the footnotes, and then we're going to also continue with what the Rebbe is trying to prove here. What's the raya about the different levels of mikdash ma'at? So in Ha'ara 13, Kenishta, here I also have the Kuntres in front of me. It's just, I want to leave the page the way it is on this shared screen. Okay, I'm going to look inside here. 13 is like this. Kenishta the Hutzal Kraiva lebeis hamedrash shel Ezra HaSefer lemata min harda. This it says in the Aruch Erech Shaf. So this shul of Hutzal was right next to the Beis Medrash, which is also like we said before that the shul and Beis Medrash should be close together. So this shul of Hutzal is close to the Beis Medrash of Ezra HaSefer, which is below Naharda, underneath Naharda. Ha'ara 14, which is the shul of Shaf v'Yasiv. So the Rebbe brings like this: Shem Makaim. It's the name of a place. Ubena'a Yechanya v'Siyatai. Yechanya is the one that built this shul, and he was the king that actually went into Galus, and he built it me'avanim v'afar sheheviu imahen begalusan l'kayim hashenemar kiratzu avadecha es avaneha v'esafara yichenenu. In order to fulfill what the pasuk says, that your servants desire her stones, the stones of Yerushalayim, and the earth, esafara yichenenu, and they love the earth of Yerushalayim. And we know that many people also, when they come to Yerushalayim, they kiss the floor, the earth, because this is the pasuk that says that we love the earth of Yerushalayim, we love the stones of Yerushalayim. So to fulfill that pasuk, when Yechanya went into Galus, he carried with him, just a joke. Everyone knows it. Rocks from Russia, from Uncle Pinchy. So he's carrying the suitcase. He says, "What do you have in the suitcase? Rocks from Russia?" And the truth is, it's a deep joke because be'emes, this is something that was done. That people used to bring rocks of the shuls that they left when they left a certain place. They didn't want to let go of the shul because the shul is where the Shechina is. And they wanted to bring that with them, and people would build with they would take the stones starting from Yechanya. He brought stones, and it even says that he even had a stone from the Beis Hamikdosh, and he brought that stone and built a shul with it in Bavel. So that's why it was called Shaf v'Yasiv, which means that it moved. This is the shul that moved and settled, because they moved the rocks and they settled it. They made a new shul over here. I want to point out an interesting thing that I realized myself here. I once was doing some digging, and I found like this: that Tzemach Tzedek's, I think it's his great grandfather. Tzemach Tzedek's father was Reb Shalom Shachna, and his last name was Altshuler. Reb Shalom Shachna Altshuler is a grandchild. I'm not sure how many generations, but not that far from the Mitzudas David. Mitzudas David, and he's also the Mitzudas Tzion, and his name is Reb David. One second. Anyway, I think his last name was also Altshuler. And what's the story with him? He comes from a family of big Rabbanim that were very, very big Rabbanim, and they originally came from Portugal. And in Portugal, they were also the Rabbanim. And when they had to leave Portugal, when they were chased out of Portugal, these Rabbanim, they took with them stones from the shul, from their shul in Portugal, and they brought them they went to Prague. And they brought them to Prague, and they built the shul that's known as the Altnai Shul in Prague. Why is it called the Altnai Shul? Or at least one of the reasons is because that shul has rocks from Portugal. From the old shul from the old shul, and that's why also their name was Altshuler. They were named Altshuler, the old shul, because they, and also to fulfill this pasuk the Yechanya was fulfilling. Kiratzu avadecha es avoneha v'safara yechinenu. They took the rocks from the shul in Portugal, which maybe I didn't do this much digging about with rocks, I guess, pun intended. But they maybe that shul also had rocks from before, maybe also going back to all the way back. But the Poyal, what they did was they took rocks from Portugal and they built it into the shul in Prague, and so they were also called Altshuler because they loved the rocks of that shul. So I think it's also connected here because at the end of the day, this is who the Tzemach Tzedek comes from, and this is who the Rebbe comes from. So I think it's a clear path to show also why the Rebbe cares so much about rocks. And we know and I put out on the flyer this week that went around of Expand 770. 1 second, Chaim, you want to say something? Because you're unmuted. Maybe we should just mute you because it's disturbing the sound. Okay. So we all know the picture that stands out by the Even Apina, where the Rebbe gets down himself and wants to pick up the rock himself. And the Rebbe really, he comes from Altshuler, from the people who took the rocks with them from the old shul and wanted to be in the new shul. And I guess it's also clear that till today we have that rock that the Rebbe held, and it sits there right next to the beginning of the Harchava that was started back then, the porch, and on the corner of the porch is that rock that the Rebbe held. So that rock is really all about, is connected right here to this pasuk, Kiratzu avadecha es avoneha v'safara yechinenu. Now, back to the Ha'ara. Over Pirush Rashi, Rish Hashanah, Daf Chav Daled Amud Beis. Makim hu, this shul, these words, Shaf v'Yasiv is a place. V'yesh poisrin shecharav v'chazav v'nivne. Some say that the reason why it was called Shaf v'Yasiv is because this shul once was destroyed and they rebuilt it. V'tamid ha'isa shchina mitzuya sham, and always the shchina was always there. V'yechanya v'galusai b'na'uhu shenasu imahem me'avnei Yerushalayim. Yechanya and those who were exiled with him, they built this shul from the stones that they carried with them from Yerushalayim. On them it says that your servants desired her rocks, her stones. Now in the Aruch, where he explains what Shaf v'Yasiv means, he says, Yesaduha me'avanim va'afar di'isiyu bahadayu mi beis hamikdosh. That these rocks and earth that they built this shul with was actually brought from the Beis Hamikdash, not just from Yerushalayim, but actually from these were stones from the Beis Hamikdash. Ukrayuha Shaf v'Yasiv, and they called the shul Shaf v'Yasiv Kolaymar Shenasa Mikdash v'Yashav Sham, which is even more of a taich, which means that the Mikdash actually traveled Shaf v'Yasiv, and it's the Beis Hamikdash settled here in this shul. Ha'ara 15, where he says Benarda, he says Uba Aruch Sham Rav Amar B'Kanishta de Hutzel, Shmuel Amar B'Kanishta de Shaf v'Yasiv Benarda. So in our Gemara, he says here that Abaye is saying that where is Shechina in Bavel? Shechina is in B'Kanishta de Hutzel and in the shul of Shaf v'Yasiv. In the Aruch, he actually says that it's an argument between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says that it's in this shul, and Shmuel says it's in the shul Shaf v'Yasiv. And in Ha'ara 16, he says Habir al Aderech HaKabbalah to look in L'Kutei Levi Yitzchak Zayach Chele Gimel Amud Samach Beis. Over there, and this is thanks to Rabbi Avtzon from Cincinnati. So he gave a podcast. He has a podcast, and he did a series on Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel. So I didn't have the time to look myself in the L'Kutei Levi Yitzchak, but he mentioned it. So thanks to him. And now that I'm also mentioning that he gave a shir on the website expand770.com, there's a tab called resources, and in the resources there's a tab called expansion in the books. And over there, I'm trying to gather as many links as possible to places where you could learn Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel, shiurim that were given, and or booklets that were printed to teach Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel, as well as other languages as well are up there already. There's Russian, I think, and Spanish. If anyone has other links to Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel shiurim, please share it with me so I can put it in the resources page. So Rabbi Avson explains that that this beer al derech hakabbalah is that Narda is okay. There are two shoals, right? And like you said, like this, the Hutzel is underneath Narda, and the Shafi Yosef is in Narda. So there's the underneath and on top, two levels. And Levi Yitzchak explains al pi Kabbalah that when there was the Beis Hamikdosh, so Hashem's name was complete, Yud Kei Vav Kei was complete, and therefore Hashem was in one place in the Beis Hamikdosh. But because there was the Churban, so Hashem's name was divided. So Yud Kei Vav is one place, and then, or maybe Yud Kei is one place, and Vav Kei, I think it's Yud Kei Vav is one, and then the last Hey is separated. So therefore there are these two shuls. There's the one that's above and the one that's underneath. I don't want to go into what's coming into my head also now, but just to hint to it is that at the end of the day, these days also we have there's 770 itself has there's an upper shul and there's a lower shul. So maybe it also has to do with that. Okay. Now let's go back to the Sikha inside. Hamikdosh b'shchina imahen gam begalus hu gilei hashchina b'mekaymes miyuchadais k'may b'mishkan u'mikdash. The Gemara is telling us the Chiddush that the Shechina is with them even in Galus, meaning that there's a Gilui Shechina that is similar to the Gilui Shechina that was in the Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash. U'makim zeh hu bebati knisiyos u'bebati midrashos shenikra mikdash ma'at k'hamshech hasugya. Now, let's look at the hardest. The Marsha over there, he says, "Umaisif should be girsas ha'ein Yaakov maisi nami galu le'elam shchina imayim shenemar v'samti kisi be'elam dahainu makim yuchad legili shchina." That there's a special place. We're not just talking about that the shchina. The Rebbe is trying to speak about what this ayis is coming to show us a raya that there's different levels in Mikdash Ma'at. That there's an Iker Mikdash Ma'at, the main place where the Shechina is. Now, therefore, he's trying to show us that when the Gemara tells us that the Shechina is with us, so in general, Shechina is always with us wherever we are. So why are we even getting into asking? Okay, but in Bavel, where is Shechina? What does it mean? Where is he? Shechina is with us. Shechina is everywhere. Wherever a Yid is, wherever a Yid learns, or like we said before, Da'al Mishal Halacha. Wherever you learn Halacha, wherever anyone has a Beis Knesset, Beis Medrash, or even if you have in your own house, if you have a minyan, or maybe even less of people, when you have a minyan Asara Sheyashun Shechina Shruya. Shechina is here. So what's this question that, okay, Shechina is with you, but where? The question, but where, is trying to speak about the Makim Miyuchad, the one that's Gilui Shechina, similar to the Beis HaMikdash is Gilui Shechina. That's what we want to know. Now, Ha'ara 18. So he proves over here that Marsha is saying that also there's a pasuk that says Samti Kisi, I put my chair, showing you that there's something special here. It's a special Shechina. It's a special Gilui of Shechina. And to the extent that we call it a chair. Ha'ara 18, on the words Shenikrayim Mikdash Ma'at, V'nikrayim Gam Mishkanais, they're also called Mishkanais, many Mishkans. Oyhev Hashem Gaimer Mishkanais Yaakov, Mishkanais. So Darish Mishkanais, Bat Knisiyos, Bat Midrashais, Sheheim B'makayim Mishkan. So in the Marsha he says that when the pasuk says Mishkanais Yaakov, it means that these are in the place of the Mishkan. where there was the Shechina Shruya in a major way, that also in Galus we have Mishkanais, just like the Mishkan. Back in the Sikh of Alpiza, Yesh Leimar, Shebehem Shech Divrei Agamara Bebavel Heicha, Bebeik Nishta de Hutzel, Bebeik Nishta de Shafi Yosef Ben Arda, Bate Knesses Miyuchadim Bebavel, Meduber Oides Gilui Shchina Ba'ayfen Naile Yaiser Megilei Ashchina Shebesh Arba Tiknisias Bate Midrashis. So what the Gemara is trying to say when it says Shechina is Imaim, fine, but we're in Bavel, and he answers in the Shul of Hutzel and Shul of Yashafi Yosef. You see that the Gemara is trying to show you that there's a certain place that the Gilui Shechina is in a much greater state than the Gilui Shechina that's in the other shuls. Makim Shenikar Shehi Shayda Sham. And in Rashi of Ein Yaakov, Rashi says, what does it mean that it's special? It's an extra special Gilui Shechina. It means that it's recognizable, that you can see that it's clear that there's Gilui Shechina here. I guess there could be Gilui Shechina, revelation of Shechina, but it's not recognizable. It looks maybe like something else. Maybe you can misunderstand the Gilui Shechina, or maybe it's just you don't see it. I guess like similar to you would walk into if you walk into let's say a place where they're showing you a 3D video, and you're not wearing 3D glasses. Maybe these days they have technology that already beat the glasses, but at least the technology that I'm used to is that you need glasses to see the 3D. So if you don't wear the 3D glasses, then it's not nicker. It's not recognizable that it's 3D. Echad Yachid Miyuchad Shehu Tmuras hamikdosh b'Yerushalayim hamakom asher yivchar Hashem. The Gemara is telling us that there's a special place, and even he says not just a place, but a one specific, unique place that's the substitute of the Beis Hamikdash of Yerushalayim, which the pasuk says about the place, the Beis Hamikdash of Yerushalayim, hamakom asher yivchar Hashem, the place that Hashem chooses to be. We also know that the pasuk, when it speaks about the Beis Hamikdash, it doesn't say Yerushalayim. The pasuk says wherever Hashem will choose as his place, showing you that even out of Yerushalayim, even in Galus, Hashem also chooses a specific place where that's where he is, Begili, and it's Be'ikr, that's where the Hashras Begili Ashchina is. Shaboy Ikra Hashras Begili Ashchina. And therefore Abaye adds and says loy tema hacha vehacha, because Abaye gave us both shuls. He said the shul of Hutzel and the shul of Narada. So you would think, oh wait, it's both. He says no, don't think that what I mean is that that the Shechina is in both places. Because he's trying, what we're talking about here, the Gemara is showing you, and this is the Rebbe's Raya, that there's a special Mikdash Ma'at, is that it's not in both places together. That Zimnin Hacha, Vizimnin Hacha. Sometimes it's in one place, sometimes it's in another place, meaning it has to be only one place, because that is the one place that's the substitute of the Beis HaMikdash. The Hutzel, the Kanishta, the Shaf Yosef ben Arda, Ella Zimnin Hacha, Vizimnin Hacha. The Makim Echa Dafke, it's Dafke in one place. The Inyan Zem Mudgish, Bishmai Shalam Makim, Kibei Kanishta, the Shaf Yosef ben Arda, Shapidus, the Shaf Yosef, who, like we learned before in the Ha'ara, that from the Aruch, that what's the meaning of Shaf Yosef? That the mikdash traveled, that it's literally the substitute of the Beis HaMikdash, because and that the mikdash traveled and moved there, settled in this shul. Hainu shegilui hashchina shehaya b'mikdash b'Yerushalayim v'lo b'makom acher. The gilui shechina that was in the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim and not elsewhere. Nasa v'yoshav b'makom miyuchad b'Bavel. It traveled and it settled in a specific place in Bavel. Tmuras hamikdosh b'Yerushalayim, instead of the Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. Ha'ara 22. V'lachein harehu gam hamakim ha'ikri d'gilei ha'Torah. And that's why it's the main place of Gilei HaTorah, of where the halachas of Torah come out of, where the Yidden learn how to live their lives. The Rebbe is saying like this: that why is this the place where halacha comes? Because the Eibishter chose this place. This is the Eibishter's doing. The Eibishter picks a place, like we said in the pasuk, Hamakim Asher Yivchar Hashem. The Eibishter chooses a specific place in the world where the Eibishter comes and gives his main Gilui Hashchina. When we had a Beis Hamikdosh in Yerushalayim, that was the place that the Eibishter chose to be his Gilui, his main Gilui. But when the Beis Hamikdosh was destroyed, the Eibishter says, don't worry. The Eibishter says, I will go and I will also choose a specific place, a main place instead of the Beis Hamikdosh, where the Beis Hamikdosh is traveling to. And that is now the new place where the Eibishter is, just like he was by the Beis Hamikdosh. So Makim Kavua, Shemimenu Yotzei Sarah La'anshei Ha'ir. Al derech ubedugmas lishkas hagazis Beis Hamikdosh. Now, because we have when the Beis Hamikdosh is existent, we have lishkas hagazis. The Sanhedrin is, because this is where the Eibishter is. He's in the Beis Hamikdosh, so that's why there's a lishkas hagazis. The Sanhedrin is there because in order, what's giving the Sanhedrin the power to direct all the Yidden and tell them how to live their lives? The Gilui Shechina, because the Eibishter is here, so the Eibishter is showing the Sanhedrin how to rule. It reminds me of I think it's in Torah. Look at the Torah. The Alter Rebbe explains that how does it work? Who does the halacha go according to? Who wins the machlokes in whenever we have a machlokes in Torah? Who wins the machlokes? Who's the one that's right? Even though we know that Shivim Panim LaTorah, that Elu va'elu Divrei Elokim Chayim, it's all coming from the Eibishter. So who's right? Who decides who's right? The Alter Rebbe says that it's based on who has more bittul to the Eibishter. Whichever opinion, whoever has a greater bittul to the Eibishter, they are the one that's right. Because the Eibishter you don't need to, it's not about you coming up with your understanding and this, we're going to follow you. We're trying to follow the Eibishter. What does the Eibishter want? Now, in order for us to find what is the Eibishter's opinion, what is the Eibishter's halacha, his way, we need to find the opinion that's most batul, that's most subjugated and giving over Hashem's word. Whoever has the greatest bittul, that's who the Eibishter, that's how we know what to do. So over here also he's saying like this. The Beis Hamikdosh, why is the Sanhedrin by the Beis Hamikdosh? Because that's where the Shechina is, and that's why they're able to know what the halacha is and teach all the Yidden. Similar also to Beis Rabbeinu. Because the Eibishter picks a specific place, and this is where he's going to go. This is where he is the substitute of the Beis Hamikdash. So that's actually what makes this place the main place that gives out directives to the Yidden of that generation. And that's why 770 is the place that teaches the whole world how to live. And you see that the success of the Rebbe's mission, that the whole world should follow a specific directive, comes from 770. Where does the Rebbe give out his Hayrah? Where does the Rebbe teach us all the mivtzayim and teach us about shlichus and teaching us? And you see that the whole world today is being run by the shluchim of the Rebbe. That they're all over the world, and everyone looks at the shluchim to know what to do, and the rabbanim of Chabad. It all comes from 770. Ramban b'Milchama Yisef Pergdal Ksubis Iker Torah miyamei Galus Benarda Sham Shegalus Yechanya. Sorry, I don't know the Nekudis over here. V'Hacharosh v'Hamiskar Chulu. Okay, I have my homework. I'm not sure exactly what that Ramban is, but it seems like what he's saying here is that he's trying to prove Iker Torah in the times of Galus is Dafke in that place that Yechanya built in the Harda, in the shul that he built, because that is the main place where the Eibishter settled that's the substitute of the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore that's also where Iker Torah comes from. Okay, back to the Sikha. Umizeh moving. From here it's understood. Gam b'negel hamikdosh ma'at shebehemshech hasugya. Shenoisef al klalos ha'inyan the mikdash ma'at shebechol batik nisiyus bat midrash Shebibovel. Then in addition to the general concept of mikdash ma'at, which applies with every single shul and every single base medrash in Galus, still what we know now is that yeshnoi hamikdash ma'at ha'ikri. There is a main mikdash ma'at, which is Tmuras hamikdash hagadol shebirushalayim, which is in the place of the great mikdash, the Beis Hamikdash that was in Yerushalayim, and that is Beis Rabeinu Shebibovel. Shenos hamikdash v'yashav sham. This is the Beis Hamikdash Shebibovel, where the mikdash traveled, moved, and settled here. We're coming close to an hour to 10:30, and I think if we move into the next ice, we probably would go over. Rabbi Shmuley, what do you think we should do? Should we continue and or should?
I bow to the public. I'm good to continue, but it's been an hour, and perhaps we stop here and do next week in 770.
Nice.
In
the expanded 770.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Okay, great. So yeah, I think we should stop here. I want to just also end off with a few words, and also want to open it up to, I guess, if anybody has something they want to bring up, maybe a question or something, I hope I can answer. But I want to say like this: that what we're doing here is what inspired this. Rabbi Shmuley has the credit of coming up with the action, taking action here, and making a shir. But what is inspiring this is a new initiative, a new effort that we've been trying to put together, which is the organization that was started, Expand 770 Inc., and the website that was launched, expand770.com. And the concept is that I believe that every single Yid should promote and encourage the expansion of 770, each in their own capacity. All of us have our talents. All of us have our ideas and passions, things that get us excited. And we each need to find our path, our avenue of promoting and encouraging the expansion. We're going to learn later in the Kuntres, and more specifically in the end of the Kuntres, where the Rebbe hits it home, that the Rebbe wants 770 to be expanded. And the Rebbe, like you see already, that the Rebbe is comparing, not just comparing, that he's proving that Torah says that there's a main mikdash ma'at, and it's instead of the Beis Hamikdash. So what we're dealing with is the Beis Hamikdash itself. And the Rebbe in the end of the Sikha tells us that just like we have an obligation, the Rambam brings it as a halacha, that hakol, every single person needs to be involved, has an obligation to help with his body and with his money to build the Beis Hamikdash. So too, the Rebbe says, similar to that, everyone has a big schus of helping out with expanding 770, that it should be also begufay b'mamayna. Now, until the actual expansion starts, what I believe, and I think that what the Rebbe taught us, is that we do not sit around and wait for something to happen. Rather, we make it happen, especially when we know that the Rebbe told us, tut altzvas erkent, each one of us should take the responsibility of bringing down Mashiach, bringing it down to this world, making it a reality, making Mashiach a reality. We each have the responsibility of getting involved and making expansion happen in our own capacity. So if my capacity is to actually start the expansion itself, then that's what I would do. Being that I'm not allowed to yet, I was not given permission to actually start the expansion. So I have an obligation to, in my own way, make this happen, make it a reality. And I think all of us have that obligation. So this organization and this website is here to bring everybody, to bring you the possibility, to give you the tools to get involved, to promote and encourage the expansion. And on the most simplest level, what it means is being an agent of expansion. That when you're speaking to someone, or when it comes up and people bring up issues with expansion, or people bring up this trap or this distraction, etc., on the simplest way that you can get involved already in promoting and encouraging the expansion, it's by telling them, yes, I believe we should expand, and I believe we need to expand. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Let's stop wasting time. Let's stop getting stuck with this and that. And I want to just end off by saying that maybe the reason that we've waited all this time to finally expand is because at the end of the day, the way Mashiach comes is through Achdus. And we know that it says that mit Achdus get gain to Mashiach. And what I'm trying to say is that maybe this mission of expansion is much greater than just a certain than one individual or a few individuals. Maybe it was always waiting for everybody to get involved as a group, to get involved and to Achdus make the expansion happen. I'm not talking about making Achdus between every fight that exists in the world or every fight that exists with 770. Those are also important missions, and hopefully we'll get to that. And hopefully even before we get to that, the Eibishter will bring us Shalom v'Shalva. But what I'm saying is that we should do this, the expansion, we should all get behind it. We should all join forces by encouraging and promoting expansion each in our own capacity. So this is one initiative to make shiurim in Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel. Whoever is able to give a shiur, whoever has in your community, everyone has the ability, and especially that we're in Hakel year. So this is the Hakel, and every shiur that you give would be a Hakel. So please take the initiative. Don't wait around. Make a shiur. Make a shiur with your friends, with your family, with your shul, and learn Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel, so that people could see what this is about. I think the main thing that would stop anybody is if they don't even know what 770 is, like why should I get involved? Why should I promote and encourage expansion? And when we learn Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel, learn the Rebbe's words, and we see in Torah what Beis Rabbeinu Shebibovel is all about, the Torah has the ability to break all boundaries and to give us the power we need to actually get things done. I said my piece. Thank you very much for joining us. And Mirz Hashem will continue with Eis Gimel. Stay tuned and get involved. Shkoyach, everybody. And thank you, Rabbi Shmuley Litvin. Thank you very much.